All right, folks, remember this morning we were talking about when is the right time to talk to your kids about sex, and I think this came up because of this book from the ministry that we spoke about last week also, that they were asking some questions that parents thought, if not the questions were inappropriate, it was age inappropriate because the kids are first 7th graders, first formers. So we wanted some comments from you guys to find out what you felt, not about the book or the questions, but when do you talk to your kids?
So what's your story? When did you have the discussion at all? I know some kids. I love my dad and my mom. Let me get that out of the way.
Which means they never talk to you.
Oh no. Thanks, guys.
To be honest, I didn't spend a lot of time talking about it with my kids, but the mother did, and I knew that for a fact that the mother did. So I teased my kids now and said, we still haven't spoken about
but they're big kids now.
But it happened. It happened. I can't remember exactly what age. And I was thinking about it this morning when we were talking about it, and I'm not certain, still not certain as a big man, know what age you should start.
It's a touchy situation for a lot of parents, which is, I think, is why my parents steered clear of it outside of
and my
try don't get involved in X and try don't get involved in Y.
My parents, and my mom was, when it came to education, my mom was the leader in my house.
Yeah.
My father was always there, don't get me wrong, but when it came to do your homework and be at school, it was my mom, and she never ever spoke to us about it. Well, me personally, never said a word to me until you did something that she didn't think you should have done, and then she would say, well, you know, you can't do that because this might happen if you do that.
Right.
But we never had sit around the table and let's talk.
And it's even tougher now because parents are competing with cell phones and internet and all the information laid out, just, you know, very accessible for the kids to see. So we asked a question on Facebook, and here are some of the comments that we got. Is that the Twitter?
I'll start with, I have Twitter. Nikki Boo says, they should start when the child reaches high school, and yes, the school should be involved as well. The parents alone can't do it.
High school?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, go on.
And the next Twitter comment is from Renz. Just as soon as they start inquiring about it, chances are if you don't, someone else will, and perhaps in the wrong way.
Remember the social worker we had on last week who was saying that we need to talk about it because the kids are talking about it and doing.
Yeah. Romari Mom says, parents should talk to their kids as early as they start asking or doing certain things. Yes, the schools should be involved. You know, I don't have a problem with the schools, and I tell you why I say this.
We talked about it in guidance counseling, but we never had questions like...
No, the only thing that, as a football coach, and I coach youngsters, I talk to them about everything. And sometimes, in a very serious way, I wonder if I'm saying the right things to them because it's a little different from what the parents might be saying. I remember, we say a prayer before they started training, and all my friends do. I constantly bless myself. And at the end of the prayer, I did that. And, you know, the team was huddled and we said a prayer and I went like that. And this parent ran on the park and says, don't tell me something foolishness. I don't do that and it's rubbish, I tell him.
This is the sign of the cross that you made?
Yeah, because there are some religions that
don't
do
believe,
not make the sign of the cross, and they don't believe in that. So sometimes, even as a coach, and I might be asked a question or two, and when I respond, I'll always say to myself, boy, I wonder if that was the right thing.
Yeah,
because
but you
the parent might be a little bit different from my
you weren't advocating your view to the team. You were just blessing yourself.
Yeah,
so that's a little bit of
I mean, we worked it out. But I'm just saying that when you say the school should deal with it too, we have to be careful that the school and the mother or the father are not sending different signals, because that could confuse the youngster even more.
Okay.
Facebook.
Some of the Facebook comments. Kevy Wevy says there's no set age. Parents should observe their child's level of maturity and act based on that. Nicola Holmes Acosta says at about 12, schools can be involved, but not the deepness, right, that I saw on the news last night. I guess that would have been the Home and Family book. Raquel Miller says at grade 7, first form, yes, school should play a part in educating about sex too. But the question is, how far and drastic will the school question be to the child? Will the question being asked be determined by the child's age group? Novely Christie says with the brain these children are born with and the number of perverts, it's not just stranger danger anymore, it's some friends and family danger as well. Good point, Novely. I say the minute they can understand what you are explaining, tell them where they should not be touched. As they grow older, then you can explain the baby-making stage. I think that's a very, very good point. Simone Coley says it all depends on the environment the child is in and the type of parents. School should be involved, but not to certain extremes, as all these kids are from different backgrounds, and the teacher really should not be teaching a child too much about sex. Black Chocolate Lewis says at age 8, and yes, it should involve in school, because these kids growing fast and also know and seeing a lot of things.
What was the significance with that age 8? Why 8?
I don't know. I don't know. Well,
Nah.
Terra Kid Osborne says 16 to 18. Then you're not gone in adulthood them time,
And sometimes you have kids already.
Yeah, and some right. Around developed stage of capable responsibilities from results, and no, schools should not be involved, much less providing contraceptives. Wow, you've taken us into a different area of debate now, Tehran. Shannon Wallace says as soon as they can talk and understand what yes and no is, parents should educate according to age and maturity. For the toddlers, teach them that no one is to touch their private parts or do anything to make them uncomfortable. Establish trust so that they will come to parents should anyone violate them. The school can get involved, that is guidance counselor, but the parent should be the first to start the teaching. Technology today is in our faces, so it makes sense, or it makes no sense rather, to shield them from the knowledge. We just have to guide them.
And the one before that I find interesting, and I certainly agreed, and that's what I was saying. I don't know if there is an age. I think some are a lot more mature than others. Like a 10-year-old in one house could be very, very mature,
yeah,
as opposed to another 10-year-old. So I think we just have to be careful. But they need to know. The key is they need to know, because, as we said earlier, someone else is going to tell them. So they need to know, and it is, I think, the role of the parents to do that.
Well, if you still haven't got an answer to the question, because I still don't know, I'm going to ask Dr. Carpenter. Karen Carpenter joins us next.
Stay close, please.
So we've aired some of your comments. Now to contextualize the issue and to give more insight into the discussion is Smiles, resident clinical sexologist and psychologist, Dr. Karen Carpenter. Good morning.
Good morning.
You just made a point a while ago during the break, and a light bulb went off in my head. You said a lot of kids are spoken to about reproduction, but not about sex.
Absolutely. Most of us, myself included, and I think I went to a very forward-thinking school where we were introduced to issues of reproduction, but most of us are not taught about sex or sexuality. What we are taught could apply to anybody in the animal kingdom.
So it's straight biology.
It's biology. I hate to think it's almost like animal husbandry. If you put this together and that together, you get an offspring. But we are not taught about the affective domain. We're not taught about the psychosexual, psychosocial, the interaction, the emotions that come to play when we involve ourselves in sexual activities. So when a young person who is not being taught anything at all is made to feel this magical experience at the hands of someone who is telling them that they know everything about sex, then obviously they believe them, because parents have not taught them about their emotions and how to guard their emotions or how to manage them, or that you can get stimulated in certain ways.
Okay. Now, I have a daughter who's going to be 2 in a couple of weeks, and I am stressing about so many different things right now, and this is the least of them all that I need to be worried about. But when do I start to talk to her?
Well, a 2-year-old, interestingly enough, has enough receptive vocabulary. In other words, they can understand enough words and enough expressive vocabulary so they can tell you what's happening with them, that you can begin the safe talk. We talk about areas that people ought not to touch, and I think one of your respondents said that. You know, so we talk about underwear. You know, no one should touch you where your underwear touches, except mommy or daddy if they're bathing, or whoever is in charge of the care of the child. So the child has to begin to understand those kinds of messages about safety. Naturally, you don't go into a long diatribe about why, but you begin to tell the child that the area that the underwear covers is not an area that everyone should touch.
All right, hang on now. So you didn't tell them that, and they are now 10, 11, they're going to high school.
Yes.
What do you tell them? I know it's easy to say talk to them about sex,
right,
but what do you say to them?
If they're already in high school, they've had an extensive sexual education at school.
Already?
Already. They have been told lots of myths. They've been told lots of things that are true and lots of things that are untrue, and they've also experienced things themselves. What we forget is that we're born sexual. We don't suddenly become sexual like a magic potion at adolescence. We are born sexual. So sexual sensations, pleasure sensations are in the body from birth. And these are sensations that the child would have felt.
All right, let's go back. Forget my question. Go back.
Yeah,
What-
after the safe talk, which is at 2.
Right. So
Yes.
when do you say something?
Well,
else?
children tend to ask you questions as they go along. So if you continue that safe talk and you are bathing your child, as you say, or the child is being bathed by a responsible adult, the child has an opportunity to talk, you have an opportunity to observe. I remember my eldest asking me at 5. We had kittens at the house. The cat had kittens, and my cousin was pregnant, very pregnant. And on the way down after the kittens were born, she's on her way to school, she's 5 years old, and she says to me, so when is Auntie Velma going to have her kittens? Because to
right.
her, if a cat had kittens and a cat was pregnant, and my cousin is pregnant, then my cousin will have kittens. Great logic. So that was an opportunity, and
That's
that
an
was
in
what we
for
call
you.
a teachable moment. And we had a very long conversation on the way down to school about pregnancy, childbirth. We got as far as lubrication. And that's when the information now got too much for her. She didn't have any other questions, and she stopped asking questions. Answer the question asked.
But how you reach lubrication, though?
Because she wanted to know how the baby comes out. How does the kitten come out?
Oh.
Because the cat had the kittens and the cat went back flat, and what has happened to the cat?
But did you tell her that Auntie Velma and Uncle Neville came together and
She didn't ask that question. She was asking about childbirth.
Got it.
She had
Okay.
just witnessed kittens being
Okay.
born.
But when you say answer the questions, that's my son is 5 years old, and he
Yeah.
sees his mother, and he says,
What is that?
Daddy, what
Answer.
here?
It's a vagina. Answer. And stop using baby talk to speak about things that have a anatomical name. Answer the question asked, because somebody else will answer the question for him or her. Additionally, there are names that children use in school that you sometimes have to also teach them so that they know that these children are referring to the same thing. Yeah? In some households, the adults are never seen slightly undressed or nude, so they would not have that opportunity. In other households, parents are more relaxed and children get an opportunity to ask questions like
Which
that.
one is better there?
I don't think there's a better. I think what we have is different family values and different scenarios. I think what we have to do is to be practical and to be safe. And by us pretending that we have never had sex, we don't know anything about sex, we're saying to our children, go to somebody who knows. And that's a neighbor or the kid at school or somebody else who's going to tell them nonsense.
No, but my child is 5 when I'm going to the shower. Do I get naked from a room?
It's
and
entirely
walk
up to
away?
you. My
But
question
that
is,
doesn't hurt her?
it doesn't hurt the child, but my question is it in keeping with the other things that are happening in your home? If you are just suddenly stripping down in front of a child that's never experienced any kind of semi-nudity or nudity and seeing it as normal, then the child obviously is having a shocking experience.
Right.
But for the child who's used to seeing their parents half-dressed or semi-dressed and not experiencing shock when they're coming on a parent, you know, once you're a parent, you don't have any privacy. So if the child comes into the room and you are not shocked by the child's entrance and you continue speaking to them normally, they're not going to be shocked if you're not dressed.
You're socializing them to
Yes, you're
realize
telling
it's
them the
normal.
body is
Yeah.
a normal thing and
Yeah.
everybody has a body and you get one of two, you know.
So-
So it depends on what's happening in your household.
When do we get to that other part now about the stork and the birds and the bees?
The
and
stork
the-
never appears because I don't know that we have storks in Jamaica. And if we
Yes,
do,
that's how-
we
that's
might
how I
have
got
pelicans.
here.
We might
My
need to use the brown
parents
pelican.
My parents never.
No.
But you're suggesting that don't be stupid. Just
Yes,
say
be
what's happening.
sensible, use the correct terms so the child learns the correct terms. And yes, if you feel it's necessary because of the environment they're in at school, tell them the other words that are used for it as well. But in this household, we call it A, B, or C. And that's how children learn. Little by little, slowly, they learn, you know.
So by the time that they're into prep or primary school, they ought to have had that talk with you.
I think they should have had some talk about safety. They should have had some talk about their body. They should have had some talk about genital hygiene, because that's a very critical issue for those who are uncircumcised and for little girls who need to understand how to maintain their good genital health. These are things that we teach people as they grow up. It's not unusual, unless you're not bathing yourself or not learning any self-care.
If you have a child who is not very inquisitive, one of my sons didn't ask anything. He just kind of move around.
Yeah.
You say, you want this? Yeah, Dad. You don't know that.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
You call him and say, Sit down,
Well, I
son, I
think-
need to talk to you about something here.
Yeah, I think the first talk, the safety talk, has to happen regardless, because a 2-year-old is not going to ask you about safety. And I think as you go along, you have to determine at what points in time you're going to sit your child down, and preferably with the other parent or with the other children, so that there can be a discussion. It's not a preaching. The
Because they're going to have questions.
They have questions. And certainly in my household, all of my children were taught about sex, safe sex, etc., in front of their siblings.
And
because
can we-
all of them had questions.
You know, we have a society, I think, where we, for want of a better word, demonize the private parts.
Yes,
Like, we all
yes.
don't have them, and they all don't serve a
Yes,
purpose.
and so we have drawings with blanks on them.
Right, and so you might have a kid who asks a question, and the parent might say that's rude, or that's kind of like a stigma we have to move away from.
We certainly do, but I think one of the challenges we have is that many parents have never had the talk. Many parents have never found a vocabulary. It's having the right words to say that make it both normal and not salacious. You're not trying to make it lewd or sexual and sensual and a come on. That's not what you're trying to do. And that's what parents are afraid of,
But
really.
isn't it fair to expect there's going to be some level of awkwardness in talking to your
Naturally,
child about
and
it?
especially if
So
you've
it's
not
okay.
rehearsed it. So
Right.
find some information, practice it yourself, see how easy it is for you to communicate that. I want to also say that there are countries that we can emulate. For instance, Cuba has an excellent public health program where you can turn on the television and see the University of Havana programs on sexuality. Not reproduction, sexuality. It's the only country in the region that has been able to reduce HIV incidence because of their education of their population.
I know what you're going to say, but I'm still going to say it. We are a religious country, and most religions that I know say don't have sex until you're married. Why don't we just say that? Why don't we just say do not have sex until you're married? We talk about it
Sure.
then. Why don't we do that?
We have been saying that. Has it been working? There's a study that I want to share with you by Dr. Samantha Longman Mills. Very recent study, 2010. She began her study. The data is now in. She's now Dr. Mills. And her studies on adolescent sexuality in Jamaica. She polled over 900 13 to 17-year-olds using privacy screens, giving them maximum privacy. They reported on the test themselves. And 58.4% of them reported being sexually active. 58.4% said they were sexually
13
active.
to 17.
13 to 17-year-olds.
I would love to hear that broken
In the
down.
13 to 14-year-old group, it was about 40.5%. In the 17-year-old group, it was 77%.
But couldn't
So
that...
by the time they get to 17, a good portion of our youth are sexually
Yeah,
active.
and I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't want to
Yeah.
seem old-fashioned, even though there's nothing wrong with being old-fashioned, by the way. But isn't that because we have become that they're having it, so we could just deal with it?
I don't think we
instead
have
of-
become like that at all. I think schools generally maintain a very strict coda as it relates to sex and sexuality, and do not, in fact, discuss sex and sexuality. They discuss reproduction.
Let's
They
see-
do not speak about emotions. They don't speak about sensations in the body. They do not speak about what sex is like, and then they also say that sex is bad.
Let's spend a minute with the schools. And some of our comments said this morning that some people didn't think the schools should be involved, some thought
Yeah.
they should. And I made the point about what if we're not on the same page? So what if I'm telling my
Sure.
child this and the school
We
is...
will never all be on the same page. We're not going to all be on the same page.
So you don't have a problem with the schools getting involved and the
I
teachers?
have no challenge with the schools getting involved if we have trained persons delivering information. I keep saying to people, I breathe air, but I'm not a lung specialist. Okay? We must be careful. Because we are capable of or involved in sexual activity doesn't mean that we're the best person to deliver the information. And at the moment, the curriculum that's creating the challenges is actually a very good curriculum. For the most part, it's very well written. And certainly the 2009 version, which is available online, very well written. There is this error that we have seen in the new one, but it's adapted from another tool. For the most part, it's classroom teachers who are teaching this. That's not how it began. And the classroom teacher, if he or she is uncomfortable with the information, they're not going to say it. But let me also hasten to say that the bits that we've been extracting are self-report questionnaires. And one of the questionnaires was about HIV risk. We're trying to assess HIV risk. So it is perfectly acceptable that we ask, are you sexually active?
But some
We
of the
couldn't know
some
how
of the
many
questions
children-
are almost offensive.
It's maybe offensive to some persons, but whether it's offensive or not from a public health point of view and an information point of view, if young people are engaged in activities that are dangerous to their lives and dangerous to their health, I think we have an obligation to give them accurate information. We may not be able to sway them from being involved in the activity, but we have a responsibility as adults to suggest to them that there are healthier ways of behaving.
And you don't think at age 10 and 11?
This is not 10 and 11. This was grade 8,
No, it was grade
9.
7.
The particular most offending passage which asked them to think about themselves as same-sex attracted was a grade 8
second
page.
form.
Second form, which is 14. The age of initiation for sexual activity in this country is 14. Okay? And there are figures that differ.
Yeah.
One report says 11. Brazil is 11. Some reports say that we're at 11. But most reports will agree that the mean age, the midpoint, is 14 years.
Wow.
So the majority of our children, and let me stop using that term. They're not children, they're adolescents. Childhood has stopped already. You've entered pre-adolescence, and then you've entered adolescence where you're sexually viable.
Well,
And that's an important issue.
Yeah, and if those statistics are correct, and I believe
And those
they
are Ministry of
then
Health
we
statistics.
need to start talking to our children and our adolescents. Children and adolescents.
I think we need to start talking to our parents.
Yeah.
We leave parents out of the loop each time. We need public health information that allows parents to be comfortable with their sexuality and to be able to be the first ones to raise the issue with their
The
children.
problem with some of those parents is that they never had to talk from their parents either.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying we need public health information.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Not
Thanks,
at all.
Doc. Oh, so much to
So
think
parents
about.
really can make a difference. We can talk with our kids, build strong relationships with them, and set clear expectations and boundaries for them. Dr. Karen Carpenter, clinical sexologist and psychologist. And really thank you for helping with a delicate topic. When we come back,